So good to see you all here this morning. Today we are exploring the power of giving and even its stages in giving. I'd like to share this quote from Reverend Jim Rosemergy. He says, "The truth is, when we give, the one who receives is blessed, but the giver receives the greater blessing. The one who receives has something tangible to point to, the gift. The giver gains an expanded awareness of the way God's universe works and a consciousness that provides for every need." Keep that in mind as we open up the service with a song called "A Gift for You."
Please stand now and join us in singing "My Source."
In God will grow. Yes, I know blessings flow, filling every deep desire. God has abundantly decreed, substance supplying every need, causing his riches to outpour, till every cup is running o'er. This I know, blessings
remain standing and join us in singing the welcome song. Take this moment to turn and greet the beautiful spirits of Christ and the people around you. You can take all you need, no mistake, agree. What you give is what you're worth to this world. You can give your time, share a smile in line, 'cause a little bit of love goes a long, long way. You can love anything, write a song, stand up and sing. You can build yourself a life in love and grace. What would you give? What would you give? What would it take? What would it take? What would you build? What would you build in love and grace? You can build your dreams with just an ounce of love in
Yes. Good morning, officially. What would you build? That's the question. By love and by grace. I want to welcome everybody, especially those who have connected with all of us this morning. Thank you for sharing this space, the love, the peace, the joy that we are. Have some announcements. We'd like to start off by mentioning to you that, as you may know, these facilities are available for rent. And talk about what have we built. We have built this amazing facility by love and faith, and most of the time the facility is empty. We utilize it can be utilized in the community by people who can use it for different reasons, and we have, but we could do more. And it's another way of supporting the church financially. So that's where you come in. We need a good sales force. Either you book your own event here, your birthday party, graduation, whatever party, wedding, or let your friends know. So we have prepared this flyer and it's out there. You should take one and just keep it in mind. We rent it to associations that meet weekly or quarterly or monthly. And it's a beautiful, people love the energy here. And by doing so, you are really strengthening our church financially. So I hope you can pick one up and start spreading the word. Second announcement, book study time. We are starting next week for 5 weeks. And this time will be on Unity and the Course in Miracles. Should be really an amazing one for many of you who have studied the course or would like to know more about that and how it compares to Unity. So books are available out in the lobby, in the welcome counter. And if you don't belong to a small group, Emily, where are you? Yes, there she is. That friendly person there will greet you and find your group. Also, she was telling me that there's forming an initiative to start one in the Durham and Chapel Hill area. So if you're from that area, would like to participate or even lead it, talk to her. And again, books are available. So your way out, make sure you get one. Then sidewalk listening, as you know, our Unity in the Community folks offer this gift of listening for others. And this next Saturday, at 8:30 in the morning in the fellowship hall, there will be a sidewalk listening training. And last but not least, every year we do a class on affirmative prayer, but this class this year has an upgrade. We're doing affirmative prayer and the 5 Unity principles. It will start on February 13th, Thursday, 6:30, and it will be facilitated by Rev Neusom. So like I was saying this morning, it doesn't matter how much we think we know about Unity, there's always something new that comes out as you expand in consciousness. You go back to the essence of what Unity teaches and even understand more. So hope you can consider taking this class this year. Now I'm going to start shifting gears with all of you as we start preparing for the meditative part of our service, and we will do so by praying. So you may close your eyes with me at this moment and pray with me. Take a deep and centering breath. And let that breath take you to that place within where all is well. Your unchanging nature, harmony and love and wisdom. And anchor yourself in there. Experiencing the flow. And like the song was saying, we're singing together. Yes, I know blessings flow. Just remember that as you and I know truth, the blessings keep moving forward into our experience, our awareness, our lives. And as we receive all this blessing, we are encouraged to give it out, to be a conduit which God uses to bless and to heal, to sustain, to love. So as we join in this prayer this morning, we remember how blessed we are and how we are meant to extend this blessing in every direction. And that's how we co-create the world of abundance that we really live in. So for this opportunity and even blessing to remember and to affirm it, we give thanks in the name and through the power of that one Christ presence in all, affirming and knowing that surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. So please join in and continue giving, being, and receiving.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Let us pray. We shift our awareness to the sanctuary of our giving heart. We give the gift of prayer to every name in this prayer box and all those in need. We give from our indwelling Christ consciousness, knowing that our giving magnifies God's good. We give our love so all are comforted. We give our peace so all are strengthened. We give our joy so all may live life more fully. And we give ourselves to the divine and to life. We empower every congregant and every name in this prayer box with the gift of giving and receiving. Through grace, God moves in and through us so we may enjoy a bountiful life. For this and more, our hearts swell with gratitude, and we rest in a state of expectancy and ready.
As we begin, let us adjust our seats so that we can be comfortable. Begin to put aside any thoughts of the past or future, be as present as we can. And to take us deeper into this moment, we'll pay attention to our breath for a few moments, experiencing the rise of the chest as the breath comes in, experiencing the chest go down with each out-breath, feeling the coolness of the breath come in the nose, feeling the warmth go out. Letting the breath be fascinating, holding our attention for a few moments. Now we bring some attention to where we're breathing, and we let the breath be focused now in the center of the chest. So we imagine, sense, and feel the expansion of the energy of the breath coming into the center of the chest. And as we do so, we experience a greater sense of energy in the heart area. And to this we add the thought that as we breathe in, we're breathing in love and grace. And then with the out-breath, we send that love and grace out into the room, into the world. So we receive love and grace, and we give love and grace. Breathing in love and grace, breathing out love and grace. Let us practice this for a few minutes together, receiving and giving love and grace as we sit together in silence. Thank you. They are beautiful today, right? It was just marvelous. Thank you. Today we're going to talk about giving. I'm sure you didn't read the bulletin before you got here that went, oh my God, they're going to talk about giving. But I'll try to make it fun. And I want to start by saying, you know, the whole purpose, well, aside from the mechanics of running a building and all that, the whole purpose of giving in a spiritual context is really so that you set up the conditions so that you have a different experience on the inside. That it's really about that. We're not going to get into guilt and shame here because it's not really going to help. What we're really looking for is this transformational experience from the inside. And so I'm going to talk to you, just tell you a little bit of my story about that, but also just to emphasize that what we're really after here is awakening to our divine nature. I mean, to really, and that's not a small thing. And that's not a simple thing. It seems to be a constant tug to be pulled back into the world and to forget who we are and then to pull ourselves out. So giving is a part of the process that we can use to pull ourselves back out of the world. But withholding is one of the ways it pulls us back into the world. So let me start with myself. When I was about 29, 30 years old, I did a workshop in San Francisco, and it was one of these workshops which is supposed to develop your ability to be successful in the world. To some degree, it's working on your self-confidence and that sort of thing, but also about habits of being on time, being successful in the way you spoke, etc. We were sitting in a circle in a small group, and this man looks my way, and he says to me, you know, you're going to have to learn to give if you want to be happy. And I hadn't said anything to him. And I didn't really know what he meant, to tell you the truth. But I do better now understand that because I was not giving, I was not experiencing any sense of prosperity at all. I had this kind of contracting sense of self, this tight mine versus others idea of life. I had this idea that if I got more, I would be more happy. Not if I gave more, I'd be more happy, but if I got more, I'd be more happy. And that I wasn't getting what I really wanted, and so I was withholding from others, myself, and my generosity. And I'm not just talking about money, obviously. I'm talking about smiles, friendships, kindnesses, caring, etc. The whole idea of not giving of myself was pervasive. And it was part of the reason I was so miserable and why I showed up at this workshop in the first place. I mean, nobody goes just because they're having a great day, right? They want something more. And it turned out that it was the inverse of what I thought it was. It wasn't about getting more. It was about being more expansive. And included in that expansiveness really was learning to give. Well, years go by, and I've done a lot more spiritual things, but I've kind of maintained this attitude of getting. And I've gotten to the point where I'm now in seminary at Unity Village. It's a 10-year journey, and I'm still on the same track. And this guy could be talking to me again that very same year and saying, you're going to have to learn to give. Well, since I was in seminary, and there was some chance that the people who were in the seminary would turn out to be ministers, including me, I thought, well, you know, maybe I should take this tithing class because I would like to get paid. So if I know about tithing, maybe something would work for me, right? Still, it's kind of on that wavelength. And so I started the class. And the class guaranteed money back, that you would have a different sense of prosperity by the time you left there, if you did everything the class asked for, which was very unlikely given that it asked for so much. You were supposed to, in the course of a 12-week period, do a 12-step program. You were supposed to do a 3-step forgiveness process. You were supposed to do all these sorts of things, journal, et cetera, and do affirmations every day. And I did affirmations every day. But I did 2,000 of them. I drove to work, to church, school and back, 20 minutes each way. I ran 20 minutes each day. So I had an hour to do these affirmations, and I did them with gusto. One of the things I really would recommend if you ever want to do affirmations, is you have to feel the words you're saying as you say them. So what really helped me was running and saying I'm prosperous at the same time. I was excited because I was running and I was breathing hard, and it was like, yes, I'm prosperous, and the sun is rising over the Missouri farmland, and everything's in its place, and all is good. And all this was working for me. And after about 3 or 4 months of this, I actually started to feel prosperous. I began to have a shift of consciousness. And I was also tithing. But, it wasn't great shakes when it comes to tithing because I was a student, and I wasn't making much money. So I thought, this is a great time to take a tithing class. The tenacity of the gripping mind is pretty strong. It was pretty strong with me. Anyway, so I'm taking that. But I do find that there's a peculiar magic that was trying to teach me something. And part of what happened was I would give money, and I would get, to the penny, an 11-time return. So I'd get what I put in plus 10 times it, with regularity. I remember one time, Habitat for Humanity had a shed burned down with all their tools in, so I wrote them a check out of my largesse. I wrote them a check for $8.70. And by the time I got home, in my mailbox was a check from the place I worked. They had miscounted how they gave me money. There was a check in there. No, it was from the insurance company. And it was for 11 times that to the penny. You gotta think something's happening, right? If that kind of thing happens, put it in and then get home and it's 10 times bigger in your pocket. I think can I go back and do that again? So this is one of the first steps with learning to give is this idea that you give to get. That you actually buy into the idea that giving is a way of inviting more to come your way, and it does work. And so biblically, they ask for 10%. I don't know that there's anything magic about it, but let's say that's what I was doing was 10%. And I was doing that 10%, and that was all fine and dandy up until my father died that year. And part of the inheritance that my brother and sister and I received was some land in Orange County that had been sitting there for a long time, nothing to do it. It was sort of farmland, sort of mostly forest, and my brother said, I think I'm going to have the trees thinned. And sure enough, he did have the trees thinned. And I had this shift of consciousness from all my affirmations and my little bit of tithing, and what came to me was $40,000 off the thinning of these trees, which is an enormous sum when you're a student, right? And it's an enormous sum when all you have to do to get it is sign your name. But I kept tithing because was working for me. I had kind of gotten this, and part of the fun of it was you're supposed to tithe in this course to the place where you're spiritually fed. And since I was in school, I was spiritually fed by my fellow students. So I started writing checks out in class to my fellow students. Now that worked for me. And I had a very fun experience with that. And it set me up to have a fabulous career as a minister. Because the first job I got as a minister, I got paid $20,000 a year. And I had been in graduate school for 5 years. It was a great return on investment, I must say. But I kept it up, and I kept doing tithing in there. So, that would be $2,000. I happily did that. At least I was kind of in that phase where it was beginning to be habitual. So I wasn't giving just to get, but it was kind of like it was part of this. I could almost begin to feel that something else was happening, that it wasn't just about getting. But I didn't get it perfectly, I must say. So along about that time, 2 or 3 years into that ministry, I'd been doing the tithing there. My mother, in her generosity, she had done some things for my other brother and sister that were more than she had done for me, and so she gave me some stock that my grandfather had invested in around 1935. And so it had been in the same company and had grown and grown, and the magic of compound interest, now it seemed like a very big number, and out of that, she had given me some money. Stock, really, not the money. And so I had the stock, and I thought, well, that's a bit of money. I'm not going to tithe on that. I'm going to wait until it goes up 10%, and then I'm going to tithe on it. Well, that was brilliant. To the taking mind, that was brilliant. But here's what happened. So this stock, which we'd had in the family for at least 50 years, had been sold to a large company, and that large company had been cooking the books. And by the time the stock market got done with that, it was worth nothing. Zero. Zip, nada. And I didn't have to tithe out any of it. It was gone. It was a remarkable experience, and I haven't told many people that. I haven't told a congregation like this about it because I didn't want you to think it was about punishment. Because really what I think it was about was this, is that I started to clutch again. I saw it go down a little bit, and instead of doing what my friend, the stockbroker, suggested, putting a stop under it so it would sell if it got to a low enough number automatically. Instead of doing that, I went, oh no. And I watched it within a very short period of time go boom, 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 boom. Because I was tight. Not loose, not agile, not sophisticated. Because I was thinking from a place of fear and greed and collapse. Tightness, right? You know what I mean? It's like the very thing that tithing and giving generously counteracts, I had stopped doing, and so I didn't act like a prosperous person, and I received the consequences of my actions, which was not punishment. It was just merely the way it works. So it was another lesson in being ungiving. It's quite expensive for us. To not give is quite expensive. And so I got back on the train of giving, and things have worked out pretty well for me. I mean, I'm happy about my financial position. One of the things that I've noticed is that one of the things that's happened lately is I had a piece of property that I sold, and I gave the church some extra money on this. So I gave the church some extra money, and sure enough, something happened to cause my pile to shrink over here. I had given, and instead of getting more, I got less. Something else happened, and I lost some more money over here, right? But at this point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because somewhere along the line, I stopped giving to get, and I started giving because it keeps me in that open space. It keeps me from clutching. Do you know what I'm saying? This is a radical difference from where I was when I was 29 or 30 years old, and the guy said, you must learn to give. It's like, okay, I learned to give. Finally, I'm beginning to learn to give. At some point, it becomes your nature, as it always has been, even since you were a child, to be generous in giving. Children love to give. They're really expectant when they give. They give, they're kind of happy about it. They want to see what it does to you when they give to you, right? They can also be incredibly selfish, too. I'm not saying they're angels. They're just us in miniature. And so when they give, they have this joy about it. And ultimately, this is the outcome of learning to really be generous with your time, talent, and treasure, is that as you do that, you begin to be joyous about it. It becomes fun. I just saw this Netflix thing called On the Brain of Bill Gates. Have you all, anybody? Okay, well, I'm way ahead of everybody here then, apparently. The Brain of Bill Gates is beautifully done. Obviously, it's about Bill Gates and how smart he is, but what he's really being smart about is he's got about $40 billion that he's trying to give away. It's a full-time job. And so he's trying to eradicate polio, and then he's trying to get toilets that work exceptionally well in undeveloped countries, and also he's trying to find a way around the climate crisis with new nuclear reactors that are safe and use spent fuel and stuff. And he has some brilliant ideas that takes a brilliant mind to pull off, but it also takes a big bank account. And it's become his way of life. You know, for a long time he was about accumulating, and now it's about getting rid of it. And that's, you know, at some point, maybe it's just as we age, the whole thing is like, okay, it was about getting, and now it's about giving. It really has to be about giving, or it doesn't make any sense at all. If it's still about getting, it's just like, it's too tight. It's too restrictive. You can't have fun with it. You've got to make it about giving. Now, I've been talking about money because money seems to be the big frog that nobody wants to swallow. But it works in all areas of our life. If we don't give, we don't really have a joyous life. So this is National Spouse Day. Did you know that? National Spouse Day. Yeah, it is kind of funny, isn't it? But anyway, so National Spouse Day. So you have your spouse here. Let's imagine you are espoused to somebody, espoused. And so you decide, for some reason, perhaps they've been a jerk, perhaps they just had bad breath that day, who knows, but you're going to pull back a bit. Now, that might work for you for the moment, but you'll see that on the other side, they feel you pull back, and they pull back. Now, you're only in this spouse thing for the fun of it, right? And it's not going so well. They're pulling back, and of course you notice, they're pulling back. And you pull back. You stop giving, and they go, and pretty soon, you're at the counselor's office because nothing's working. And I was talking to somebody between services, and he said, yeah, you know, marriage is 120% from each person. That's how it works. So there we are. We're back to this whole thing. It's not about the money. It's about the consciousness. It's not about getting enough. Like in a marriage, you can't get enough if you don't give. There's no enough there. There's no nothing there if you don't give. There's almost no reason to be there if you don't give. Now, one of the things that causes us to think withholding might be a practice worth doing is that we bought into somewhere, according to the Course in Miracles, the book we're going to be doing a book study on, somewhere along the line, we bought into this idea that we're separate from God. And that this separation is this belief in the separation is the beginning of our downfall and the pain and the suffering that come with it. And one of the things that happens when you don't feel like you're part of something, let's say you're not part of this marriage because you pulled so far apart that the magnets are no longer connecting you back together. You pulled apart so far, there's no marriage there. When you pull that far apart, you experience the separateness, and in the separateness, there is the pain and suffering. And we feel the pain and suffering in our life when we live our lives as though we are separate, as though we are separate from each other or we're separate from the one presence. We suffer when we feel that we are not at one with God or each other. And the suffering is because we believe in separateness. And the clutching and the fear and the I've got to get mine is because we feel we are separate, and the cycle continues. So it's only when you break that cycle, and sometimes you have to do it consciously, and it may take you a decade to get it done. You have to become a giver, or the tightness will continue. Your belt gets tighter and tighter. So only by giving can you begin to break the spell of separateness. Now you can break it with conscious experiences of perhaps drugs or maybe just ecstatic moments that happen to you naturally, but to build a consciousness that endures, part of what you have to do is give. It could be giving a prayer for someone else, holding the attention for their highest. It could be sending love through the ethers. It could be actually physically doing something. It could be service in a community like this. It could be holding the door open for someone. It could be helping in ways I can't even imagine. But this giving is the way you knit yourself back together with your true nature and your reality. And money's just one of those ways. But if you withhold in money, you begin to withhold everywhere else too. If you give with money, you begin to give everywhere else too. If you give with love, you tend to give with everything else too. When you give with your time, it begins to become bigger. As we give, we receive. We are in the giving first to get, finally to express who we really are. We are the divine. If you think about God, and you don't think about God like a person, right? Like if you were a person and you were God, you might go, I kind of had it with these people. I have, and in the Old Testament it happens a lot. I've had it with these people, taking my stuff back. But in the new God, the one that you all are contemplating, God is not a person. God is the presence, the energetic intelligence that is forming and reforming all that exists all the time. And that energetic presence does it because that is its nature to do that. It has to do that. It's not like you. You, I'm giving something to. You, not so much. It's not its style. Its style is to give, and our job is to open to it. And how do we open? We do the same thing. We are generous with our love, our kindness, our smiles, our self. We're generous. And the generosity allows that stuff to come right on through you out into the world. And it passes, as it passes you by, it lifts you up. And you become more aware of who you really are. You are that faucet out of which God expresses into life. You're the light bulb that the electricity can shine through. You are that, the energy. Just a temporary bracket in eternity. That's who you are. So we do this open-heartedness, this generosity, at first so that we might get more, but in the end, so that we might express more. We are here to be the hands, the eyes, the voice of God. So, I hope that wasn't too painful. Talking about giving, when I think back to that guy saying to me, you're going to have to give if you want to experience a happy life. I don't know what I look like that was so obvious. But he was so right. It's what I have to do to experience a full life. And if there's somebody in your world that you're holding a grudge against, you obviously haven't let that person be someone you can shower your love on at this moment. Perhaps you don't shower your love on them because you tried once and it failed. Then do it in secret. Do it in your own private chamber. See if you can't just love them, even though you've been hurt. Think of yourself. There must have been times when your parents, as you as a little child, or maybe even as an adult, you said things to your parents that that would hurt them. Maybe you meant to, maybe you didn't, but you hurt them, and they loved you anyway. They took care of you anyway. Maybe you were a little baby, and they were changing your diaper, and if you're a guy, and they changed your diaper anyway. Maybe that happened. We should take that as our standard of how to be. Just do it anyway. Just love them anyway. What the heck? That's who you really are. Why not do it? So let's take a little moment to practice. So let's take somebody who's hurt your feelings. We'll start with forgiveness. We'll do our best to forgive them right now, just by saying, I forgive you. Internally, I forgive you. And maybe you feel the pain and the sadness, which is okay. It doesn't have to feel good. Not right now. It doesn't have to feel good. But you feel it and you say, despite that, I'm going to love you anyway. And having felt that and said that, see if it's possible just to love them anyway. It is your nature. Do not withhold your nature from yourself. Just love them. And while you're at it, just love yourself for trying, for being willing. As you love yourself and you love that other person, give thanks that this is your nature. And this is who you came to be, and you're being it. And so it is. Amen. quick, I just want to let you know that after this service, we're going to give you a few minutes, but then come back in here. Those of you who would like to be in the congregational meeting, it will start probably right around 12:25, and we will do two things in particular, three things. We'll hear about the future and the past of the church, but we'll also approve a budget and elect the committee that chooses the next board. And so the leadership selection ministry will be chosen at that time. The budget will be approved, and we'll hear about the future. And now I just also want to say that this book study that we're doing, if you have not gotten in a small group, one you can call your own, Emily's going to be able to help you with that. This being in a group is a brilliant way to discuss these things in such a way that they become more real for us. The book we're doing, Unity and A Course in Miracles, is a great way to hear very similar, but not exactly the same statements about the truth as we know it. And it seems to me, as I read this book and look left and right at the two ways of describing it, I kind of get it more clearly for myself and have my own understanding of it. So I hope this will be something you'll be part of. Okay, let's do our offering. Let's say these words together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
We've got to give a little love, have a little hope, make the world a little better. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Living in this crazy world, so caught up in the confusion, nothing is making sense for me and you. Maybe we can find a way. To be a solution, how to make a brighter day. What do? We got to give a little love, make a little hope, have a little more harder than before. Let's do what we do, let's do what we do, let's do what we do together. Oh, oh, together. Oh, oh, only if we try. On our mind, got the troubles on our shoulder. Sometimes it seems so much what we all go through. Maybe if we take the time to understand each other, we can learn to make it right. What do? We got to give a little love, make a little hope, make the world a little better. Try a little more, harder than before. Let's do what we can do together. Oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, make it better. Oh, oh, only if we try. Oh, oh, la la la, give a little. Oh, oh, la la la. Oh, 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 only if we try. If everybody took somebody by the hand, then maybe everyone could learn to understand. We can really make it better. Oh, oh, la, 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 only if you try. Oh, oh, la, 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 we can really make it better. Oh, oh, only if you try. We got to give a little love, have a little hope, make the world a little better. I'll try a little more, harder than before. Let's do what we can do together. I said, oh, oh. We can make the world better. Oh, 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 only if we try. We got to give a little love, have a little hope, make the world a little better.
Here we are. They're on their way. They'll be here in just a second. There we go. Thank you, Jay. I think there are more coming. Are we there? I just want to say, y'all are so pleasant. I mean, I think you just waited. It's sweet. It's like we're having the same problem they have at Christmas time, right? We have to wait and wait and wait. And finally it arrives. And then it's beautiful, just like this. So let's give our love to them. Let's say these words with open hearts. Together. You are loved, special, and important, just the way you are. Let's join hands and sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Enjoy your week.